Daf Yud Amud Aleph, the second line from the top. We learned previously that the Persians were considered the ones that built the second base of Mikdash. The permission to build the second base of Mikdash was given by Kirish, the king of Paras, of Persia, and therefore it's attributed to the Persians. The Gemara will now discuss the different background and the identity of the different nations. Right, the Gemara Parsoim and now learned the Yefes calls. So we learned that the pasuk says Yaft Elokim LeYefes, that Hashem will give beauty to the children of the Yefes, the descendants of Yefes, meaning the Persians that built the base of Mikdash. So how do we know that the Persians they descended from Yefes? You'll see the pasuk says Bnei Yefes, Gomer Magog, Madav Yovan, Vesuval, Umeshach, Vesiras. Those were the children of Yefes. So now the Gemara identifies these people and these nations. Gomer is Germania. Gomer, that's Germania. Magog is Kandia. Magog is Kandia. Madai Kimashmo, that's Madai, that's Media. Yovan zu Macedonia, that's Macedonia. Tuval is Beis Naiki. Tuval is the Beis Naiki. Meshach is Musia. And Tiras, Pligi Ba Rabbi Simoy Verabonan, they have a machlekes from the Rabbi Simon Verabonan, Charamar zu Beis Traiki, Charamar zu Poras, Tani Rav Yosef, Tiras zu Poras. So Tiras is Poras, and therefore we see that Poras was a descendant of Yefes, Yaftal Kim Yefes, B'Yishka Ba'Lishem. The Gemara continues further. Savta v'Rama v'Savtacha. The children of Cush, the Bechor of Cham, were Savta, Rama, and Savtacha. Tani Rav Yosef, Sakisa Gavaisa, Sakisa Baraisa. Savta and Savtacha, these places are called, it's the inner Sakistan and the outer one. The inner and outer Sakistan, they were in the same region. One was the inner area and one was the outer. The distance between the two is 100 parsoi. Ve'kefa alpha parsoi. The circumference of the outer one is 1,000 parsois. Vati reishes mamlachta Bavel ve'erech ve'akar ve'chalnei. So it talks about, the pasuk talks about the kingdom of Nimrod. So it encompassed Bavel, Erech, Akar, and Kalnei. Bavel Kamashmo, that's Bavel, what we know as Bavel. Erech zu Arichus, it's called Arichus, V'avet ze Baskar, and Kalnei ze Neufer Ninfi. The Gemara continues, darshaning the pasuk Mina Eretz Ha'i Yotza Ashur, from that land Ashur came before Tani Rav Yosef. Ashur is a Silak. Vayiven es Ninveh ve'esrachai v'sir ve'es kolach, and he built these cities, Ninveh Kamashmo. Now we understand Ninveh, the place that's known to us. Rachai v'sir zu frastamation. That is parastamation. Kelach zu for us the bursif. That is paras of bursif. Best reshen ben Ninveh uben kalach hira gedoyla. Reshen zu aktes. Hayir Agadoila, here Agadoila, and Yodei im Ninveh Agadoila. So we don't know. It's not clear. Is it the Ir Agadoila, the great city that it's talking about? Is Ninveh the Agadoila? Imres and Ir Agadoila. But Keshu Oimer ben Ninveh Hayis Ir Agadoila Lelakim Halach Shleishes Yomim. It says the pasuk in Yain that Ninveh was a great city. It took 3 days to travel through it. So Ninveh, so therefore we can see that Ninveh is what is referred to as the Ir Gedolah. So now the Gemara is going to discuss the identity of other cities that are mentioned in the Torah. When the Meraglim came up, so it says that they came and they arrived at Hebron, and they found over there Achiman Sheshet Talmai, the children of the giants. Tana Achiman Meyumin Shbach. So Achiman, he was called Achiman because he was the most powerful of the brothers. They were all giants. He was the most powerful. Sheshai Shemesim Esharas Keshchises. He was called Sheshai because when he walked, he ruined the earth. He was such a big, powerful giant. His footsteps would ruin the earth underneath him. Talmai Shemesim Esharas Tlomim Tlomim. He was called Talmud because when he walked, he made furrows through the ground. He dug up the ground, he made furrows. Davar Acher, Achiman Bana Anas, he built Anas. Sheshai Bana Alush, he built Alush. Talmud Bana Talbush. They built these cities. Yelidei Anak, why were they called Yelidei Ha'anak? They were called the children of giants. Shamanikim, Manikim Achama B'Kaimas. So to speak, they made a necklace of the sun. They were so tall, and powerful that they raised up above everybody else. The sun was now, they blocked the sun, and the sun was around it. You could see it around them, but not above them. And it looked like they made a necklace. It looked like the sun was a necklace around their shoulders. So that's Yelidei Ha'anak, Ma'nikim. They were made the sun, so to speak, as a necklace with their height. Omar Rabbi Yishu ben Levi, Amar Rebbe. Rabbi Yishu ben Levi said in the name of Rebbe, Asida Remi Shetibal Biat Poras. Also, in the future, Rome is going to fall into the hands of Pars. Persia will conquer Rome. So we talked about the Persians, etc. Also, they will fall into the hands of Rome. Shenemar, the pasuk says, Lachein Shimu Atzas Hashem Asher Yoatz El Edom Umachshavoisa Asher Choshav Al Yeshei Seiman Im Lo Yischavim Sirei Yatzayin. So this will happen. This is the Machshava. This will happen to Rome. If not, Im Lo Yischavim Sirei Yatzayin Im Lo Yashim Aleim Neveim. That if the youngest of the tzayin of the sheep, if they will not destroy the dwellings of Rome. If they won't drag them off, and if they won't destroy their dwellings. So you see that the Tsirit sign, which we'll see, is a reference to Paras. Paras, Latalove, will destroy Rome. Moskevla Rabba Braula, my mashma the heights here at St. Paras. So how do you know that the Tsirit sign is referring to Paras? What makes you say that? Because the pasuk says Paras. Because it says the ram, the horned ram that you saw, that refers, it's a symbol to the kings of Moray and Paras, so that's Persia. But they may have. Yes, there is a reference to the sign. It says over here that it's signed to Paras, but maybe it's also Greece, because we also have a reference to Greece. The he-goat, the male goat, the king of Greece. So you see that Yovan also is referred to as the sign. So how do you know that this pasuk means specifically Persia? When he came to Eretz Yisrael, Amra Kamidahu Rabbana, and he said over this kasha, Amrale, they answered to him and they said, Mandala Yoda Pirush the Kroy, Moisev Tiuftal Rebbe, someone who doesn't know how to understand the psukim, he asks a kasha to Rebbe, My Tzirei Hatzain, when it says the youngest of the flock, what is it referring to? Zutri Dachoi, it means the youngest of the brothers. So we learned before, we brought down the pasuk before, that the sons of Yefes, so it's referring to the youngest of the sons of Yefes, the Tzirei sign, the Tanur of Yosef, Tiras Uparas. So it says the last one, the youngest one that's mentioned is Tiras, and Tiras is Paras. So that's what it means over here, the Tzirei sign. And therefore, it shows clearly that Rome will fall in the hands of Persia. He says a different source to teach you that this will happen, that Rome will fall in the hands of Pars, Kal V'Chaymer, because it's a Kal V'Chaymer. The first base of Mikdash was built by the descendants of Shem, was built by Shlomo HaMelech. The first base of Mikdash was built by Shlomo HaMelech. So, and Ve'achriva Kazdim, and it was destroyed by Bavel. So the first base of Mikdash was built by the descendants of Shem. And nevertheless, it was destroyed by Kazdim. So Novel Kazdim Biat Parsim, and the Kazdim fell into the hands. That Bavel was conquered by Persia. They fell into the hands of the Persians. Mikdash Sheni Shabanu Parsim, the base of Mikdash that was built by the Parsim, and Rome destroyed it. Einodin Sheipol Roimim Biat Parsim. So Kal V'Chaymer, certainly that Rome should fall in the hands of Persia. So you had the first base of Mikdash was built by Shem. The Bavel destroyed it. Bavel was conquered by Persia. The second base of Mikdash, which was built by Persia, by Paras, and Rome destroyed it, certainly that Paras should conquer Rome. Amar but Rav said no. Asira Paras shetipol biyad Roimi. He says, no, not that Persia will conquer Rome. Rome will conquer Persia. Paras will fall into the hands of Rome. Amar Rav Kahana Rav Asil Rav. The ones who built the base of Mikdash should fall into the hands of those who destroyed it. But the second base of Mikdash was built through the help and the permission of Persia, of Kairos, and that should fall into the hands of Rome, who destroyed it. Amar lahu, he said to them, yes, Xeris Melachi. It's Xeris Melech. You're right, Minasphora, it shouldn't be that way, but that's Xeris Melech. That's Xer that it should be that way. Ikadam, some say Amar lahu inu nami ha-kasasre beknishta. Some say that what he answered is that they're not, you consider them builders, and therefore that the Rome should not conquer them, they should conquer Rome. They're also destroyers. They destroy our base Knesset, our shuls. They also destroy. They didn't destroy the base of Mikdash, but they destroy our Mikdash Ma'at. So therefore, the Kal V'Chaimer is not a Kal V'Chaimer. Some say the Pshat is therefore that, meaning that is part of the Gzer as well. Yes, they built a base of Mikdash, but don't think to say that they are tzaddikim, and don't think to say that their intentions were so pure, and don't think to say that therefore they should have the status of genuine builders. So perhaps that is a pshat. We can say perhaps that's a pshat in what's Gzera. It's a Gzera that it should be that way. Not that there's no reason for it whatsoever. It's a Gzera that it should be that way because they were not genuine builders. It's to demonstrate that Persia really didn't build a base of Mikdash in a pure way, in a way that we can consider them to be really builders. That Persia will fall in the hands of Roim for one reason is because they destroy our shuls. Also, it's Xeris Melech. Damar Rav Yonah Rav Ein Ben Dovid Bo Mashiach will not come at Shetishat Malchus Roim Rishon B'Cholam Kol Tisha Chadoshim. Mashiach will come only after Rome rules over the entire world for 9 months. Shenemar Lachen Yitnem Ad Eis Yoileda Yoloda VeYeser Echav Yeshuvun Al Ben Yisrael. That it says that he will surrender him until the time that the one who gives birth, and then Mashiach's brothers will return with the children with Bnei Yisrael. So, what is the time of giving birth? It's 9 months. So it will be after that period of time. After the 9 months, Rome will rule over the entire world, and then Mashiach comes. Tan Rabbanon. So now coming back to our discussion that the Kohen Gadol was sequestered in the Lishka's Parhedron. Now the Gemara's going to have a discussion about the Lishka itself. What is halacha? Did it have a din of a bias? And therefore, is there a chiyuv of mezuzah? Tan Rabbanon kol halishkois shayu b'migdash lo yela mezuzah chutz Lishka's Parhedron. Shahaya ba beis dir l'kain gadol. The Tanakama says that all of the lishkois and the base of Mikdash, they had different offices which were used. They were used for guards. The guards used to guard the base of Mikdash there. They didn't have a mezuzah, except the Lishkas Parhedron, which the Kohen Gadol was sequestered over there. That's considered a base dira. He lived there for that week. He lived there entirely in that time. He lived there, so therefore it had a mezuzah, but not the other offices. Amar Rav Yehuda says, what about all the other offices, all the other chambers? They also were used. They were used by the guards. They didn't have a mezuzah. So really, min ikar adin midaraisa, the Lishkas Parhedron shouldn't have to have a mezuzah. Tanakama says that it had a mezuzah, Mikra din, Lishka had a mezuzah. Rav Yehuda says no. If there would be a chayva daraisa, if there would be a chiv daraisa to have a mezuzah in that type of a chamber, then the other lishkois also would have to have a mezuzah. Ella lishkas parahedrin gzera isa. It was a gzera. Mikra din, there's no chiv mezuzah. Rav Yehuda holds that type of a dwelling doesn't require a mezuzah. Lishkas Parahedrin had a gzera to have a mezuzah, like we'll see in the Gemara Vayter, so that they shouldn't say that the Kohen Gadol is locked in jail. He has appearance of being locked in jail. They put a mezuzah that it's a proper dwelling. But make your din, you don't need a mezuzah for that type of dwelling. My time is Rav Yehuda. Why does Rav Yehuda say that the Lishkas Parahedrin did not have a chiyuv of mezuzah? Ikra din, in the right says there's no chiyuv of mezuzah. Omar Rava, he says, Kasav Rav Yehuda called bias, sheinu also limois hachama, or limois hagishamim, eno bias. A house that's not used year round is not considered a house. In order to be considered a house, to have a chiyuv of mezuzah, it has to be used year round. The Lishkas Parahedrin was used for 1 week prior to Yom Kippur. That's not called a house, and there's no chiyuv of mezuzah. Meaning, therefore, he holds, similarly, that the guards who used the other lishkais also did not have a chiyuv of mezuzah, because they only guarded at night and not in the day. So the Svasemis. That's how Svasemis explains it, that the guards only used it at night. They didn't use it in the daytime. So just like Rav Yehuda holds that a bias is not used year-round, there's no chiyuv mezuzah, a house or a lishka that's not used both day and night is not called a bias. There's no chiyuv mezuzah. The Rabbanan hold that there's a difference. Miri explains that the Rabbanan hold that the Lishkas Parahedrin that was used day and night, it was used completely for a week, albeit only for a week. There is a chiyuv of mezuzah. For the houses that the guards used, which is more temporary in nature, there's no chiyuv of mezuzah. So that's how they explain the machlokes. It's not so simple how this would work according to those who hold that the guards guarded both day and night, because that's not so simple. The Rishonim hold that the guards also, the Rishonim hold that the guards guarded during the day as well. And so why wouldn't there be a chiyuv of mezuzah? Perhaps we can explain and say the pshat is that, but it was not used by one person, any one person, day and night. It was rotated. Some used it at daytime and some at night. But nobody used it day and night. If it's not being used by any one person day and night, that's not called a house. It's temporary in nature. Some people use it daytime, some people use it nighttime, but nobody uses it day and night. That's not called a house. You're telling me that a house that's not used year-round is not called a house. The pasuk says, it says in the pasuk that I will destroy the Beis HaChorev, this winter house, together with the summer house. So you see that a summer house is called a house. You see a winter house is called a house. Even though it's not used year-round, it's still called a house. Amarle Rabbi answered, Beis HaChorev, Beis Ikri. Yes, it's called a summer house. It's called a winter house. But by Ikri, but it's not called a house. It's called a summer house, a winter house. But a house is only if it's used year-round. The Gemara will continue the discussion into the next Amud.